Okay guys, like the title says, this is about the blood moon coming up on the 8th, the same day as the full moon. Those are two different things. Now, when it gets to astrology, I can ramble on, or when it gets to any topic that I truly love, I can ramble on. So I took notes, so if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes to make sure I stay on topic. Okay, I did a video either last year, I believe last year, beginning of last year, about the blood moons. We had one then. We also had a blood moon in April 15th. Of this year. Now, with that being said, what is an actual blood moon? The blood moon is when the Earth comes directly between the Earth comes I'm doing this like I got three hands, but the Earth comes directly between the sun and the moon. So it'll be the sun, the Earth, and then the moon. And when the Earth is directly between it, it causes a lunar eclipse, meaning the shadow from the Earth falls completely over the moon, giving the moon a copper glow. It's more copper than anything. It's more of a copper red than an actual blood red. But this is what's considered a blood moon. Now, most people lately have been mixing the lunar eclipse, a total lunar eclipse, because we have partial and there's another name for the lunar eclipse, because there's three different types. But the total one is the one that we're having now. And we had a total one back in April, around April 14th, 15th, that coincide with the Passover. Now, people have been confusing the blood moon, which is technically the lunar eclipse, a total lunar eclipse, with the hunter's moon. And the hunter's moon really was known as the dying grass moon, and the hunter's moon, and also the traveler's moon. And I stated in the video, you know, why it's called the hunter's moon, in the Aries spells and rituals video, why it's called the hunter's moon. So I'm not going to go into that. But with this, again, the blood moon is not the full moon. Although it happens with the full moon normally, it is not the full moon. The blood moon is basically when, or a true blood moon, again, is when the Earth is when the Earth is between the sun and the moon, and the shadow from the Earth is cast on top of the moon, giving it a reddish copper look. Now, one of the reasons why this has been getting confused so much, so one, it's a double blood moon, but not a true blood moon once you understand what a blood moon is. Now, one of the reasons why this particular blood moon is getting so noticed is because of the fact that these next four blood moons, or these next four lunar eclipses, are going to be total true. Well, I'm sorry, the next three, because we had one that was a true lunar eclipse in April. We have one now coming up on the 8th, and then we have two more coming up next year. One again in April, and I think the other one's one again in April, and I think the other one's in September. And in between those, there will be no other lunar eclipses. So it'll be four lunar eclipses back to back to back. Now, four lunar eclipses back to back to back is called a tetrad. Now, with us having a tetrad of lunar eclipses, a lot of people who read the Bible picked up on a verse, I think it's in Joel, where it says the sun will be blood, and so the sun will be blood, filled with blood, and so will the moon. Now, one of the problems is that in that verse it says the sun. So we're not talking about solar eclipses here, we're only talking about lunar eclipses. But you know, most people halfway read, and other people don't read at all. They just follow what other people say. But even with that being said, the reason why this is so big is because Pastor John Hagee, I had to think of his name. I didn't put that in my notes, but I had to think of his name so I remember his little chubby face. But Pastor John Hagee and another pastor, Mark Blitz. I'm not too familiar with Mark Blitz, but I'm familiar with Pastor John Hagee's work. Hagee wrote a book called, I think it's called The Four Blood Moons, and how, I haven't read the book, but it's saying how it coincides with the Bible and the Bible predictions, and you know, the end of the world and prophecy, stuff like that. So people are really latching on to that idea, and because of that, this blood moon that's coming up has been given a whole lot of great attention. Now, the problem in that is that in the past, since 1st century AD until now. Oh, you know what? I missed something. Let me go back for a minute. Now, the other reason why this is getting so much attention is because these particular four lunar eclipses, these particular four blood moons, which is called a tetrad, line up with the Passover and the Tabernacle Feast of the Jews. Passover being in April 15th was the Passover. This one's coming up. This particular lunar eclipse is coming up on the Feast of Tabernacles, and the next two, the next year, it will line up the same way. So because it's lining up with the Jewish holidays, or the Jewish feast, it's another reason why it's getting a whole lot of attention, especially since the Jews follow the lunar calendar. I can't talk again. Especially since the Jews follow the lunar calendar as opposed to the solar calendar that we go by. So that's one of the other reasons why it's getting so much attention. Now, with that being said, though, as far as following the prophecies, since 1st century AD, I could be wrong on that, but somewhere around the 1st century AD until now, we've actually had 62 triads, meaning we had 62 times where there were 4 total lunar eclipses lined up, back to back, with it's 6 months apart, and 6 month apart span lined up back to back with no other lunar eclipses in between. So it's not necessarily new, but we live in a microwave age where most people tend to forget. So most people forgot, think this is something that's new to the history of mankind, and it's totally not. Give me a second, because I want to make sure I'm not missing nothing as I go through my notes. Oh yes, okay, that's the other one I'm missing. Since 2001 until basically now, we've actually had a total of 8 lunar eclipses. So I had a total of 8 lunar eclipses, and that's pretty much it. I just wanted to explain the blood moon. So as far as, why this one's getting so much attention, and again, even though I did a video way back when on what a blood moon is, I want to do another one so people can understand that it's not 2 lunar eclipses coming up. It's the Hunter's Moon, which over time got deemed the blood moon, because the Hunter's Moon wasn't called the blood moon in origin. It was the Hunter's Moon, and that's the other thing. But it was the Hunter's Moon, the Dying Grass Moon, and the Traveler's Moon, because if you were traveling at night when the time was cooler, you had more moonlight and brighter moonlight during this particular moon to get where you had to go. But one of the reasons why they're calling now the Hunter's Moon the blood moon also has to do with the 2 pastors who wrote their books, because they're calling the full moon the blood moon, but it's not the blood moon. The blood moon is actually a lunar eclipse. That's what a blood moon is. It is a lunar eclipse. And the reason why the lunar eclipse is called the blood moon is just because, well, that's what ancients have always called it. It doesn't necessarily look like blood, but it kind of sounds better than saying that we're having a copper moon during a lunar eclipse. Now, the actual time of the lunar eclipse will be at Eastern time. Eastern time, U.S. time, will be at 6:55. I'm trying to find it in my notes, but 6:55 a.m. The actual full moon is actually going to be about 5 minutes before that. So you'll have the full moon, and then as you have the full moon, then the planets, the sun, the moon, the sun, the earth, and the moon will line up perfectly, and then you'll get the lunar eclipse. So this is going to happen early in the morning for most people. So depending on where you're at, you may or may not see it, depending on whether the sun has risen up, or had sunrise or whatever, depending on where you at. But that's really all what the blood moon is. That's really all it is. I just wanted to clear that up for everybody who's like, what's the blood moon? What should I be doing during a blood moon? Well, it's the sign of alignment. When you consider the earth, which is you, the moon, which is your feelings, and the sun, which is how people see you, going according to astrology, you are the earth. So the earth will represent, if you go according to astrology, the earth will even though astrology, you're the center of the astrological wheel, but in this lineup, the earth will be you, who you truly are. And now it's totally lining up with your feelings and how people see you. So at this time, people may get a glimpse of who you truly are. You may get a glimpse of who other people truly are. So it's a great time for reflection on that. Also, this particular lunar eclipse is happening during a retrograde. So because it's happening in a retrograde, and it's so much, it goes along with the reading for this week. It's happening in the Mercury retrograde, which Mercury retrograde is all about self-reflection. The full moon will be in Aries, and that's all about, again, self-reflection, who you truly are. It's all about self. Then you have this lineup of how all the different aspects that someone can see you in lining up perfectly. It's all about self. It's basically a time to, when you wake up that morning, or you get a feeling, most people get a feeling that they just naturally wake up, or as it lines up or starts to go out of alignment, you'll start to see who you truly are. Accept that. Accept that for what it is. And then if you like it, hey, you're good to go. Show it and be bold with it. If you don't like it, then change what you don't like. That's how you can use it to work with yourself. Again, it's a great time for, I said it before, but it's a great time for road over cells. I mean, there's no better lineup other than a solar eclipse for actual road opener spell if you want to get the most out of it according to astrology. Let's see, what else is there? I believe that's totally it. So hopefully now you know the difference between the moon and a blood moon, which the blood moon is a nickname for, again, the lunar eclipse. And this is why they're saying it's a double lunar eclipse. It is not a double. Not at all. It's just, well, you already know because this video is getting too long. So everybody have a blessed one. Have a blessed week. Peace.